60 Minutes Rewind.
When President Bush named North Korea part of the axis of evil, he was talking about that country's nuclear ambitions. But when he later said, "I loathe Kim Jong-il," he was speaking of the starvation, the deprivation, the brutality that currently bedevils millions of North Koreans. Take a look at a satellite picture of the whole Korean peninsula at night. South Korea is a vibrant, prosperous, capitalist democracy. But where the lights end, the North begins. It's an impoverished Stalinist dictatorship. And tonight, we'll shed some light on that dark half of Korea. We Americans know very little about what life is really like for North Koreans because few foreigners are allowed in, and it's difficult to get pictures out. But Dr. Norbert Wollertson, a German family physician, spent a year and a half in North Korea as a member of a German group that provides medical aid there. Wollertson told us he was stunned by what he saw and was able to capture on videotape when he managed to travel around much of this secretive country.
These are little children in children's hospital, 8-year-old, 6 years old, some of them 15 years old, but looking like a 10-year-old because they are suffering from malnutrition. But what shocked me mainly was how they are looking, how sad. There's no more emotional reaction in those eyes. They can't cry anymore. They can't laugh anymore.
And this German doctor told us he was also struck by the stripes on their pajamas.
That was nearly the same picture from Dachau, Auschwitz. We Germans, we were accused that we kept silent during Hitler's Nazi regime, that there was nobody who spoke out. I saw those children and I gave a promise that I will not keep silent. Silence is killing in North Korea.
Silence and malnutrition, from which, according to relief groups, 60% of the children here suffer. Tuberculosis and other diseases are spreading, but the doctors are practically powerless to treat them.
In North Korean hospitals, there is nothing. There is no running water, no heating system. There is no soap. There is no medicine. That's the reality in North Korea. And nobody knows about that.
He said some hospitals have to use empty beer bottles for IVs, but many hospitals have simply shut down. While driving his Jeep around the country, he said he saw hungry, malnourished people everywhere, foraging for food.
I saw little children at the roadside picking up all those little insects or whatever they can find and whatever they can eat. Women who are looking for some leaves and special herbs.
And, he told us sadly, no birds were chirping.
Because the people are killing whatever can run, whatever can fly.
Dr. Wollertson's reports are confirmed by Hazel Smith, who recently spent 13 months in North Korea for the UN, monitoring food aid shipments. And she said it's not just hospitals. She said the whole country lacks the most basic necessities. And I read from her list. No clean running water, lack of fuel to boil much water, no soap, no disinfectant, no toilet paper, no toothpaste, no sanitary napkins, but many women have stopped menstruating because of malnutrition.
Yes, there is chronic malnutrition throughout the country now, which means that children and adults don't grow very much.
You wouldn't know it looking at the capital city of Pyongyang. These CBS News pictures were compiled during rare visits over the past decade. Pyongyang is in large part a Potemkin village built for show. This towering triangle, touted to be the world's tallest hotel, has so many structural flaws that it's never opened for business. Wide boulevards feature decorative female traffic wardens directing imaginary traffic with robot-like precision. Everyone needs a government pass to get in or out of Pyongyang, where only those judged most loyal to the regime are allowed to live. But except for top officials, life in Pyongyang is tough too. These apartment buildings look impressive, but most elevators in them do not work. Very little works here.
Even if you're quite privileged, you're going to live in a cold apartment. Having access to water, to sanitation, to electricity is pretty difficult. The worst thing about life in North Korea now is that people don't know whether they're going to have enough food to survive.
They may not have food, but they do have liquor.
All the shops in Pyongyang, empty. No food, no rice, nothing at all, but thousands of bottles of soju, very cheap produced North Korean liquor. It's real poison, it's toxic, but it will make you drunken immediately, and that's the purpose, in order to make the people happy.
But happiness is in short supply. For the economy collapsed in the 90s when most factories had to shut down after Russia stopped sending North Korea free oil.
If the factories are closed down, what do all the people who used to work there, what do they do?
Some of them are dying because they don't have access to income or food. And North Korea is becoming a nation of petty traders because people have to get by.
She said black markets have sprung up where people barter whatever they can for their next meal. Floods and mismanagement in the mid-90s caused the famine that has killed more than 1 million people. And many more would be dying without massive food aid from neighboring countries and the U.S. But here is the paradox. Despite years of misery, even the U.S. government admits the vast majority of North Koreans remain loyal to their leadership, proud of their government. Why? Because they simply don't know any other way. During their 50 years of communist rule, Kim Il-sung and now his son Kim Jong-il have sealed off North Koreans from the outside world. Their radios and TVs are specially made to receive only government stations. All newspapers and magazines are published by the government. No foreign media, no internet. But loudspeakers everywhere incessantly praise Kim Jong-il.
From the early childhood, 2-year-old children are educated to love Kim Jong-il, to worship him like a god. And that's the main point. It's more like a cult. He's using this brainwashing process with steady propaganda from early in the morning up to the evening. And when you are listening to those brainwashing process for several years, are educated in this, you will believe in this.
Kim Jong-il is a purposefully mysterious figure. He has never given a public speech. But Harold Koh saw him up close when Koh, then a U.S. Assistant Secretary of State, accompanied his boss Madeleine Albright to Pyongyang 2 years ago.
He's probably about 5 foot 2 inches tall, but he's extremely vain about his height, and he had a kind of bouffant hairdo so that his hair stood up another inch. He wore very thick heels.
You mean platform shoes?
Platform shoes to pick up an extra inch. So he looked a little bit like an aging rock singer.
But Koh told us Kim is cunning, ruthless, and smart enough to try to use nuclear blackmail to force President Bush to give him more aid, food, and fuel. He told us, too, that Kim Jong-il has pronounced Western tastes.
He drinks hard scotch. He loves American videos. He talked about his 3 computers on which he surfed the internet. Very bizarrely, everything that he deprives to his people, access to the outside, are things that he himself personally craves.
The story will continue after this.
The constant indoctrination demands rigid conformity. Ideologically, everyone must be in lockstep, especially at those massive performances that honor their leader. Koh says he's appalled that Kim puts his money into a 1 million-member military and into developing nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles when he can't provide basic necessities for his people. Food goes first to the military and the elite. For everyone else, instead of food, Kim force-feeds them propaganda.
It's a country where there's essentially no freedom, no civil and political rights. People are spying on each other.
All North Koreans are aware that they don't have the freedom to say what they want and to do what they want, and that they would be in trouble if they said the wrong thing.
They are full of fear. I never saw so many people so afraid about anything, any soldier, any military post, any policeman.
Their fear is understandable. These are satellite photos of a slave labor camp. According to a defector who'd been a guard there, U.S. officials told us North Korea has a dozen such slave labor camps that together contain perhaps 1 million people, 5% of the country's entire population of 22 million. And any sign of disloyalty can get you sent to slave labor, according to former inmates who say that if one member of a family is arrested, the whole family often has to go too. Many inmates work 18-hour days in hazardous coal mines. In some camps, 1 out of 5 prisoners die each year from exhaustion or starvation. Others die from being used as guinea pigs for chemical or biological weapons. And guards are encouraged to be brutal. Special punishment cells? What's a punishment cell?
The punishment cells that have been described by refugees are very tiny cells which are too small for someone to stand up, but also too short for them to spread their legs out. So people are in a sort of cramped position. And in those cells, they're thrown after they've been beaten or subjected to other kinds of humiliating treatment, and then they're fed or not fed.
But never fed much.
Human Rights Watch reports that the workers at the labor camp tried to catch rats in their shoes so they can roast them and have an occasional piece of meat.
Senator Sam Brownback, a Republican from Kansas, has heard similar reports from North Korean defectors who escaped into China. He traveled to China's North Korean border last month and told us that tens of thousands of defectors are hiding in China to avoid being sent back to North Korea, where they could be killed in the camps.
You have horrific stories.
Public executions in front of inmates?
Yes.
Babies born in prison routinely killed?
That's the information we're receiving. Women feeding their family a little bit of food laced with rat poison to kill the children before they'd starve to death. I've had eyewitness testimony.
Are you serious?
Yes. That's the eyewitness reports that we are getting.
That you believe?
Yes.
The senator and Dr. Volditson believe that just like Nazi Germany, when the full scope of horror in North Korea is finally revealed, it will be far worse than the initial reports. And Volditson vows that he will keep telling the world about these children until Kim Jong-il is toppled. People looking in at this moment, I can see they're saying, well, this man's a fanatic.
We were accused, we Germans, that we kept silent. And now I'm called a fanatic because I'm so outspoken, because I'm traveling around the world and shouting, here, look at those children, because I want to save those children now. And that's why I'm a fanatic.